The jewelry box hit the kitchen table with a soft click. My sister-in-law opened it like it was Christmas morning. Inside, diamond earrings. Big ones. The kind you don't buy unless you're celebrating something huge or spending money that isn't yours. "Do you like them?" my brother asked, grinning like a guy who just won the lottery. I froze halfway through pouring my coffee because an hour earlier, my bank had sent me a notification. $6,800 withdrawn from my account. I hadn't bought any diamonds. I hadn't bought anything. Then my sister-in-law lifted the receipt from the box, and my brother said the one sentence that made my stomach drop. "Don't worry," he laughed. "Family money anyway." The thing about my brother, Ryan, is that he's always been the guy who thinks the rules don't apply to him. Growing up, it was little stuff, borrowing my bike without asking, taking cash out of mom's purse and calling it temporary, showing up late to everything and somehow still acting like everyone else was the problem. My parents used to laugh it off like it was some kind of charming personality trait. "It's just Ryan being Ryan," my mom would say. But when you grow up with someone like that, you start noticing the pattern a lot earlier than everyone else. Ryan never really asked for things. He just took them. And somehow people always let him get away with it. When he got married to Olivia last year, I honestly thought things might change. Olivia was polished, organized, the kind of woman who color codes her planner and sends thank you cards for everything. She worked in marketing, always looked like she stepped out of a lifestyle magazine, and Ryan acted like he'd somehow landed the deal of the century. At the wedding reception, he even joked about it. "I married up," he said, raising his glass. Everyone laughed. I laughed too. But what people didn't know was that 2 months before that wedding, Ryan had come to me with one of his temporary problems. "Just until things settle," he'd said. Back then, I believed him, which is exactly why that jewelry receipt sitting in my sister-in-law's hands made my chest feel tight. Because the amount printed on that paper looked very familiar. And suddenly that bank notification from earlier that morning didn't feel like a mistake anymore. It felt like the beginning of a really ugly answer. I didn't say anything right away. I just stood there at the kitchen counter, coffee mug in my hand, watching Olivia hold those diamond earrings up to the light like they were the most normal thing in the world. Ryan leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, looking proud of himself. "Ryan," I said slowly, trying to keep my voice steady, "where did you get those?" He glanced at me like the question was weird. "Jewelry store downtown," he said casually. Olivia laughed softly. "He surprised me this morning. I had no idea." My eyes moved from the earrings to the small white receipt still lying inside the box. I could see the total printed at the bottom, $6,800. My stomach tightened instantly, the exact same number that had flashed across my phone an hour earlier. "That's a pretty big surprise," I said. Ryan shrugged like it was nothing. "Yeah, well, my wife deserves nice things." I set my coffee mug down because my hand had started shaking a little. "Did you pay for them with your card?" I asked. Ryan hesitated for half a second, just half, but I saw it. Then he smiled again. "Relax," he said, waving his hand. "Why are you interrogating me like a cop?" Olivia looked between us, confused now. "What's going on?" Ryan walked over to the table and slid the receipt back into the box like the conversation was already over. "Nothing's going on," he said quickly, but I had already pulled my phone out of my pocket. I opened my banking app and turned the screen toward him. The transaction was still there, bright red against the white background. $6,800, withdraw. Ryan's eyes dropped to the screen. For a second, his smile faded, just for a second. Then he leaned back and laughed like it was the funniest thing in the world. "Oh," he said, "that." And something about the way he said it made a cold feeling crawl up the back of my neck. Because he didn't look surprised. He looked like someone who had already decided the conversation was over before it even started. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck like the whole thing was a minor misunderstanding. "Look, don't make it weird," he said, glancing at Olivia before looking back at me. "I was going to tell you." I stared at him, trying to process what he had just admitted without actually admitting it. "You were going to tell me that you took almost $7,000 from my account?" My voice came out lower than I expected, but inside my chest, my heart was pounding like crazy. Olivia's smile had completely disappeared now. "Wait," she said slowly, looking from him to me. "What does she mean, your account?" Ryan let out a long sigh, like we were the ones making things dramatic. "It's not like that," he said. "It's family money." I actually laughed at that, not because it was funny, but because the audacity of it almost knocked the air out of me. "Family money?" I repeated. "Ryan, that account is in my name." He shrugged again, that same careless shrug he'd been doing his whole life whenever he didn't want to take responsibility for something. Yeah, but you helped me out before, he said. You know I always pay you back. I crossed my arms. No, Ryan, I said flatly. You say you'll pay me back. Olivia looked completely lost now. Ryan, did you take money from your sister's account? She asked quietly. For the first time, he looked slightly annoyed. Can we not do this right now? He muttered. I stepped closer to the table and tapped the jewelry box with my finger. Oh, we're definitely doing this right now, I said, because that transaction happened this morning. Ryan ran a hand through his hair. You're acting like I robbed a bank, he said. It's just a loan. A loan usually involves asking first, I shot back. Olivia slowly closed the jewelry box and placed it back on the table. The excitement she had 5 minutes ago was completely gone. Ryan, she said carefully, you told me you got a bonus from work. Ryan didn't answer her right away, and that silence said a lot more than any excuse he could have come up with. My phone was still in my hand, the transaction staring back at me. $6,800. Suddenly, a memory hit me like a punch to the gut. 2 months ago, Ryan sitting across from me at a coffee shop talking about how things were tight after the wedding. Just until things settle, he'd said back then, and like an idiot, I had trusted him enough to give him temporary access to that account for emergencies. Apparently, in Ryan's world, diamond earrings counted as an emergency. For a few seconds, nobody spoke. The kitchen felt weirdly quiet, like the air itself was waiting to see what I'd do next. Ryan finally broke the silence with a small laugh. You're seriously blowing this out of proportion, he said. I said I'll pay it back. I looked at him, really looked at him, and something inside me finally clicked into place. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Ryan genuinely believed he had done nothing wrong. When? I asked calmly. When will you pay it back? He shifted his weight. Soon. I nodded slowly. Soon, as in next week? He didn't answer. Next month? Still nothing. Olivia crossed her arms now, her eyes locked on him. Ryan, she said quietly, answer her. He let out an irritated breath. Why are you both acting like this? He snapped. It's not that serious. That sentence right there was the moment I stopped feeling angry. Instead, I felt something colder, clearer. You're right, I said. Ryan looked relieved for half a second, like he thought the conversation was finally ending in his favor. Then I opened my banking app again and tapped a few buttons. Ryan's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at the screen, confused. What's that? He asked. I looked him straight in the eyes. I just locked the account, I said. His expression changed instantly. What? And I removed your access, I added. Olivia's eyes widened slightly, but she stayed quiet. Ryan grabbed his phone, scrolling quickly. You didn't have to do all that, he said defensively. It's just money. I tilted my head. Exactly, I replied. It's my money. He looked up at me, irritation turning into something sharper. You're being petty. I almost laughed again. No, Ryan, I said. Petty would be me showing Mom and Dad that receipt. That shut him up fast. His jaw tightened. Olivia slowly pushed the jewelry box across the table toward him. Ryan, she said quietly, take these back. He stared at her. Are you serious? Yes, she said, because if you had to take money from your sister without telling her, I don't want them. Ryan looked between the two of us, realizing the room had completely flipped on him. For the first time all morning, he didn't have a clever excuse ready. And honestly, watching that confidence finally disappear was worth more than those diamonds ever could be. Ryan didn't say much after that. He just grabbed the jewelry box, muttered something under his breath, and walked out of the kitchen like the whole situation was somehow my fault. The front door slammed a few seconds later. Olivia stayed behind for a moment, staring at the table. Then she sighed and shook her head. I'm really sorry, she said quietly. I shrugged a little. You didn't take the money, I replied. She nodded, but you could tell she was still processing everything that had just happened. Honestly, I was too. Because the truth is, situations like that don't just appear out of nowhere. They build up over years, small things people ignore, little boundaries people cross, until one day someone finally says, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And sometimes the hardest part isn't the money. It's realizing that the person who crossed the line is someone you grew up trusting. So now I'm curious, if you were in my position, what would you have done? Would you have locked the account like I did? Would you have confronted him right there in front of his wife? Or would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I know I'm not the only person who's ever dealt with a family member who thought family money meant your wallet. And if you enjoy real stories like this, messy family drama, crazy situations, and the moments where people finally stand up for themselves, make sure you hit subscribe. Because trust me, stories like this, they happen way more often than people admit.